It was a stormy night, the kind that sent shivers down your spine even before anything unusual happened. The rain hammered against the windows of the pizza parlor where I worked as a delivery driver. I'd seen my fair share of strange occurrences on the job, but nothing could have prepared me for what was about to happen. The phone rang, breaking the monotony of the quiet, empty restaurant. The manager, a stout man with a perpetual scowl, handed me the order slip without a word. "Delivery for the Harris residence," he grumbled. "They're out in the old woods. Be careful out there." The Harris residence was notorious among the drivers for being deep in the woods, far from civilization. My GPS reluctantly guided me through winding, narrow roads, each turn taking me further away from the comforting glow of street lights. The rain battered my car, and the wind howled through the trees, creating an eerie symphony of nature's fury. As I approached the Harris residence, the atmosphere grew oppressive. The forest seemed to close in around me, and the darkness was absolute. I parked in front of the house, an aging and decrepit structure that loomed like a haunted mansion in the night. My gut clenched with unease. I grabbed the pizza box and approached the door, my heart pounding in my chest. The porch light flickered ominously as I rang the doorbell, casting long, shifting shadows on the porch. Moments passed, each one stretching into an eternity, until finally, the door creaked open. A man stood before me, tall and gaunt, his eyes hollow and haunted. His clothes were disheveled, and his face was etched with exhaustion. "You're here," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the storm. I offered a polite smile, trying to conceal my unease. "Yes, sir. I've got your pizza right here." The man's gaze never left mine as he took the pizza box, his fingers trembling. "You shouldn't be here," he muttered, more to himself than to me. Before I could respond, he abruptly shut the door in my face. I stood on the porch, bewildered and slightly irritated. It wasn't the first time a customer had been strange, but this was something else entirely. As I walked back to my car, a sudden, bone-chilling realization hit me: the man hadn't paid for the pizza. I rushed back to the door and knocked loudly, hoping to get his attention. But there was no response, only an eerie silence that hung in the air. A sense of dread washed over me as I realized that I had no choice but to return to the restaurant and explain the situation to my manager. As I drove away from the Harris residence, the storm raged on, and the wind carried with it an unsettling sense of foreboding. When I returned to the pizza parlor, my manager was less than pleased. "You lost the money and the pizza," he scowled. I explained what had happened, how the man had taken the pizza but hadn't paid, how he'd seemed disturbed and barely coherent. My manager grumbled something about crazy customers and handed me another delivery order. The next delivery was a nondescript house on the edge of town. The rain had finally stopped, but a thick mist had settled over the streets, lending an eerie quality to the night. I parked in front of the house and grabbed the pizza, but as I approached the front door, a sense of déjà vu washed over me. The door swung open before I could ring the bell, revealing the same man from the Harris residence. His eyes were wide with panic, and his clothes were soaked as if he'd been standing out in the rain. "You again," I stammered, my heart racing. The man grabbed my arm with surprising strength, his grip like a vice. "Listen to me," he hissed. "You have to leave. They're coming for you. They're coming for all of us." My mind reeled with confusion and fear. "Who's coming? What are you talking about?" But the man didn't answer. Instead, he released his grip and slammed the door shut. I stood on the porch, my heart pounding, as a sense of impending doom settled over me. I returned to the pizza parlor once more, shaken and bewildered. My manager was furious, but my mind was consumed by the strange encounter. Who were they, and what did they want? As the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The shadows seemed to move with a life of their own, and the air grew heavy with an oppressive energy. I tried to focus on my deliveries, but my unease only deepened. My final delivery of the night took me back to the Harris residence. I parked in front of the house, my heart in my throat. As I approached the door, I could hear faint, distant voices, whispers that seemed to come from the very walls of the house. I rang the doorbell, and the same man opened the door, his eyes wide with terror. "You have to leave," he gasped, his voice trembling. "They're here. They're here for you." Before I could react, a group of shadowy figures emerged from the darkness, their faces obscured by hoods. They advanced toward me, their movements slow and deliberate, like a pack of predators closing in on their prey. Panic surged through me, and I turned and ran, my footsteps echoing in the night. The rain had started again, and the mist shrouded my vision. I could hear the footsteps of my pursuers behind me, growing louder and closer with each passing moment. I didn't know where I was running, only that I had to escape. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees reaching out with gnarled branches that seemed to grasp at my clothes. I stumbled and fell, my pizza box crashing to the ground. As I struggled to my feet, I saw them shadowy figures emerging from the mist, their faces hidden in darkness. They advanced toward me, their movements slow and deliberate, like a pack of predators closing in on their prey. Desperation overcame me, and I ran deeper into the forest, branches scratching at my face and arms. The voices of my pursuers grew louder, their words a chilling chant that sent shivers down my spine. Just as I thought I couldn't run any farther, I stumbled upon a clearing in the woods. In the center of the clearing stood a dilapidated cabin, its windows shattered and its door hanging off its hinges. With no other option, I burst through the cabin door and slammed it shut behind me. The interior was dark and musty, the air heavy with the scent of decay. I hid in the shadows, my heart pounding, as I listened to the voices of my pursuers drawing nearer. They surrounded the cabin, their voices a sinister chorus that seemed to penetrate the very walls. I could hear them chanting in a language I couldn't understand, their words sending a chill down my spine. Hours passed, or maybe it was days. Time lost all meaning as I cowered in the darkness, my mind consumed by fear and uncertainty. The cabin seemed to take on a life of its own, its walls closing in around me, its floors shifting and groaning with unseen forces. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the chanting ceased. The cabin fell silent, and the mist that had shrouded the forest began to dissipate. I cautiously ventured outside, my heart still racing. But there was no sign of my pursuers. The rain had stopped, and the night was calm once more. I stumbled back to my car, my mind a whirlwind of disbelief and terror. The events of that night were etched into my soul, a haunting reminder that there are forces in this world that defy explanation, that challenge our understanding of reality. As I drove away from that accursed place, I couldn't help but wonder what had those shadowy figures wanted from me. What had driven them to pursue me with such relentless determination? The answers remained elusive, lost in the darkness of that fateful night. A night that had gone horribly wrong. I do still worry for my and my family's well-being. Enough time has passed now, but still it is something that hangs in the back of my mind.